So we know that Coffee Lab runs a roastery, which plays a key role in transforming the beans into a perfect cup. What does that entire process look like, and can you walk us through how you transform the beans?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to speak about the process.
Yeah.
And since we're at the cafe, as in water, I'll use this opportunity to ask our barista to
fantastic.
kind of pour us a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And then I can like really tell you about I'll guide you through the process of how we got it here.
Absolutely.
So what she's giving us, Flavian, she's pouring us a Poirova, which is actually a way of brewing coffee, a manual way of brewing coffee. And she is giving us Dominic's Peaberry. So I'll give you insight on why the name is called Dominic's Peaberry. It's actually from a single producer in Kenyan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and a peaberry is a type of bean. It's used to be thought of as a defect because when you open a coffee cherry, you see two similar sized beans, like a twin bean. Exactly. But a peaberry is just when you open the cherry, it's just one berry and it's shaped like a pea.
Right.
And the idea is that the cherry, by the way, coffee is harvested once a year. So it takes 1 year for the tree to flower and then, give out cherries. And so the idea is that because the cherry only had one kind of bean to grow, then all the flavors are more intense.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can taste it.
Oh, don't mind if I do. Oh wow!
So
it's quite rich in flavor.
Yeah. So
yeah.
There's no pressure, but like sometimes you might taste notes, right? So like we actually say like, oh, there could be notes of strawberry. It's juicy, sweet cinnamon, and those are notes that are different from. There's a lot of things that modulate the flavor of coffee. So it will be the type of trees that have been grown, the variety of trees, the region. How they were processed, etc. And so there's what we don't do for sure is we don't make blends, because then you anonymize you anonymize the producer behind the blend. You anonymize the effort and the kind of the story behind the producer. So I think you asked me about the process. So our process really starts from way before when the coffee has been harvested. So the main harvest season in Kenya is around December to January. Okay. But before that, we're already deciding, okay, so what coffee are going to sell, who is doing innovative stuff in the industry, who is, what coffees have we capped, etc. And it's pretty much relationship based. I'll say that it took us more than a year to get this coffee. Wow. Yeah, because then in the very first time that we had established a relationship with Dominic, his coffee was already set to go to the auction. And once it's there, it's like it's a pretty, it's a big structure, and it's a big kind of bureaucratic system about how to source coffee and actually how to buy it. And so in such a case, then the producer has really no say in that they want to sell their coffee to Coffee Lab Nairobi, for example. So we had to wait another whole cycle, and then finally purchase the coffee before it went to auction. And so that's really the process of sourcing the coffee. But now that we've sourced it, then we think, okay, so this coffee is from Cape Kenyan. Cape Kenyan coffees are easier to drink, so they are like light-bodied, and they're not as acidic as, for example, coffee from Moranga or Central. And so when we're thinking about roasting, we actually define like a roast profile. So a roast profile is deciding like, this is how long it's going to take to roast 5 kg of coffee. It's going to take like, so we're going to put it in this temperature. It's going to go through certain stages or milestones of the roast at this time and this time. So it's a very meticulous process, and like we've analyzed and it's iterative before we decide like, oh, this profile completely honors the work of the producer. Like what we're doing is amplifying the effort and the work of the producer, right? And so then now we have the roasted coffee, and then we have to think about like, oh, how do we get it out? So one thing we did, because if you think about it, we are introducing specialty coffee in a market that for the most part drinks instant coffee, and so how do we get people excited? How do we get people like, curious about it? And so we started a coffee subscription model.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so the whole idea of how we got it out of the ground was like, can we get this like core people, like fans of coffee? Even I started with a really small number, around like 20.
Oh, wow.
And can we get them to like be so obsessed with the coffee that we're giving them? So we used to send out coffee and a card about how to brew it, who is behind their coffee, like the stories behind like the person who's grown their coffee or the cooperative that's grown their coffee,
right.
And like what they might taste, so the tasty notes. And then the idea was, it's consistent, so every month you're getting a new coffee and you're learning about something new about coffee.
Yeah.
But also, like then we get you to not have to buy coffee when you're going for your usual shopping, because like, oh, my coffee comes every month at this time. And then like, get these people, become our core like kind of fan base, and then get the people around them to be like, oh, what's that you're drinking? Or, I can't believe you're still taking instant coffee. You should try the subscription system.
Yeah.
And so like really that's how we got our coffee out. And then at the same time, for us, it's this amazing way to get recurring revenue for our growing business,
right?
Because then we know like, oh, we have this number of subscribers, we're always going to get this amount of money. It also helps us to plan when we are sourcing coffee, like we'll need this much because we have this number of subscribers. Then also we had to incentivize people to pay beforehand, so like pay for 6 months of coffee ahead.
Oh, wow.
Then that gives us like cash on hand. So but at the same time, at the core of it, then we have, at the end of the year, we have a more educated consumer and a more knowledgeable consumer.
Right. I think it's really beautiful just how much impact you guys are even creating beyond the brand, but also for the producers, and how you've incorporated them into your story. I think as a coffee lover myself, I'm learning so much more. It makes me appreciate just the cup
coffee
that I'm taking, you know. I think it's so beautiful, and educating people will definitely increase that interest. And I really love that. So you've built a career at the intersection of business and coffee. What challenges have you gone through and overcome, and what's one lesson you would say you had to learn the hard way?
Okay, so I mean the challenges, and maybe I touched on them in terms of just like the complications of sourcing coffee in Kenya. I think the truth is we are kind of working in an industry that is not really meant for small businesses or Kenyan businesses, right? Like the truth is like coffee is a very colonial product. There's a lot of rules and regulations around like who gets to sell it, who gets to buy it, etc. So there's that, like how to source coffee is its own challenge. But also I think even when we are, as we get to grow the subscription system, as we get to kind of grow the market, the challenge is to create a market that didn't really exist, and to create incentive for people to spend money, considerable amount of money or more money than they usually would on coffee. But I would speak on a personal challenge, which is, yes, this started as a hobby, and the part that I enjoyed about coffee was the roasting part. And so I think I said that my background is in particle physics, and so I like the experimental, inquisitive part of like taking something and digging into it and like extrapolating it, etc. But the truth is I don't roast anymore, because then the running a business is a whole complete different task, right? And so I don't think I'd prepared myself for that, and there's a kind of like a mourning or like a loss in that. It's like the thing that got me into coffee was the roasting part, but to run a business, then it's like the spreadsheets and the how we grow in the business, what's the budget, who are we hiring, why are we hiring them, like really looking for capital, etc. And then it's nice to talk about coffee, but the truth is there's less and less of that in my daily work, and it is a challenge because it's very new for me. I think, and I don't think I'd appreciated that. And there's a level of, I think that even when I say like, yes, I quit my job and I'm doing this full time, there's a level of what's the word, like it can seem very, it's a nice story to tell, but the truth is that I don't think it speaks about the challenges of like working. and also managing people in a way that I did, and being responsible for like their salaries, etc. I think that's the challenge of like running a business, which I still enjoy. I just hadn't anticipated.
I see.